Today, we will hear from white people exposing the system of racism operating in their community for centuries. Check it out.
All right, y'all, say it with me now. The problem is white men. The problem in this country is white men.
We are all racist. Every single one of us who look like me, who are watching this video, we are racist. And let me explain what I mean by that, because if you would have told me that a few years ago, I would have come out of my corner swinging saying, no way, I am not. I have worked in the criminal justice system for decades, and I've seen the systemic racism there and fought against it. I have biracial children, and I have seen the way the world looks at my children who are of a minority race versus my children who look like me. And I would have said, no way. But here is the thing. The more I learn, the more I realize just how much I don't know. Because there are two types of racism. There's the kind of racism that comes from the hate in your heart, and I don't have that. I never have, and I suspect very many of you don't have it either. But there is another kind of racism that comes from ignorance, and that abounds in my life. Even me, who thought that I knew a lot about seeing systemic racism. But here's what I've learned. The more I learn, the more I realize how unintentionally racist I have been in so many things. And it is on us now, white people, to educate ourselves. We're never going to fully grasp what it means to live in a world where you are the minority and where the system has been set up for hundreds and hundreds of years to benefit people who look like me and to oppress people who look like my children. But we have got to educate ourselves. I'm going to start listing several books and documentaries that I've been watching to educate myself. And I hope any of you who really want this world to be a better place, we have got to start with the foundation that all men and women are created equal. And we have got to set new rules for how we move in this society if we're going to have that. I need to apologize to the friends, the clients, the people I interacted with for so many years, because I thought I wasn't racist, and I'm not, as far as the part that comes out of hate. But the part that is born from ignorance, I'm sorry, I should have done better, and I am learning. For those of you who are watching this who are minorities, please put your advice in the comments. Books, documentaries, movies, or just your life experiences. I want to learn, and I want to help others learn, because I don't want you or your children or my children to live in a world that is designed to fail them.
This is reason 10,000 why racism is rooted in jealousy. Tell me why I received this message of a white man saying, well, you look like you've dated black men, and if you have, none of us want you. I didn't know this was an attitude that a lot of white men hold, but apparently they think that white women who sleep with black men or with brown men, they become tainted in some way, and they no longer want that white woman. But this is absolutely rooted in jealousy, because why would it matter to them unless black men made them feel insecure? There is something about black men sleeping with white women who they view as their possessions that really gets them feeling angry, like they aren't good enough, because let's face it, they aren't. And white men are obsessed with black men's penises. Like, they talk about it often online. You'll see comments like, I bet she takes black dick or whatever. And it's weird and genuinely unsettling how much they talk about black men. If they weren't insecure, if they didn't feel jealous, then why would they talk about it? They wouldn't. Genuinely so embarrassing on their end, because quite literally anybody can see through like what they're doing.
A not so fun fact about slavery is that they would force the mothers to bury their kids to their head, like with their head sticking out, and they would take turns kicking the child until they beheaded them. They would rape their husbands in front of the wives, and then they would force their wives to cook their child's head to serve it to the slave owners. And the most disgusting part about all of that is that the US never even owned up to it, really. They really were just like, let's just teach them the bare minimum, sugarcoat it, make it seem like it was that long ago, and then we'll move on and teach them like so much other shit about the Holocaust. Why did we learn more about the Holocaust than we did about slavery. Like, tell me why. When I remember learning about the Holocaust and slavery, they would go into very specific details about what they were doing to the people during the Holocaust. Like, every detail, bro. We went to a Holocaust museum as a field trip. Like, they teach you about segregation, they teach you about slavery and what they made the slaves do, some of the stuff they did to slaves, and the end of slavery, which, by the way, even after, like, the laws were signed in at first to, like, kind of abolish slavery, do you really think that people just let their slaves go? Do you really think back then that they were like, okay, well, the laws have changed, let them go? No, they kept those people even after they were told not to, just like our administration did when they were told to release those people from fucking Alligator Alcatraz. Ridiculous. You want to know some other shit? They're bringing back slavery. They're bringing it back. And you wonder why they taught you the bare minimum about slavery in school. Because they don't want you to see the signs. They don't want you to be educated on it. They don't want you to know how fucking awful the US was. And still is. Still is. We still have that attitude. Like these people are below us. And it's fucking disgusting. Oh my God, I can't. Oh, and you wanna say, oh, how are they bringing slavery back? You're crazy. Florida House Bill 433, Section 47, states that you are not allowed to spread misinformation or propaganda regarding farming or agriculture. I wonder why. It reminds me of the time that Trump's talked about farmer responsibility. Is that what it's called? Owner responsibility? Yep, that's it. Owner responsibility. Sounds a lot like slavery, doesn't it? So if you don't know what owner responsibility is, or you don't know what I'm talking about, when Trump was being interviewed at Alligator Alcatraz, right? I'm pretty sure Pam Bondi was there that day too. And he said, yeah, we're gonna have the farmers have responsibility over these people, and they won't get citizenship, but they'll get a gold card and they can work in the US. So slavery. And you're gonna have the farmers be in control of these people even though they don't get citizenship. But yet he called it a rightful pathway. You wanna know what a rightful pathway is? It's a program to where you can come into the US and eventually you will become a US citizen. That is a rightful pathway to US citizenship. A rightful pathway includes citizenship. They are lying in our fucking faces. They're bringing back slavery, and no one even knows. No one cares. What in the fuck, dude? Like, if you live in the US, if you grew up in the US, it is your responsibility to teach yourself about all of the shit that the US has done. All of the eugenics, because you want to know another thing? Hitler didn't come up with eugenics. That was us. We did that. And they copied our regime. So the next time you want to compare the Holocaust to American slavery, just know that both of them were our ideas. Both of them. Jesus Christ, dude. I literally can't. I can't. And you wonder why they taught us the bare minimum when the same people that made our school books and dictated what we should and should not be taught were in the Epstein files. The US is just a big trafficking ring. It's just a big money laundering scheme, a big child sex trafficking scheme. The US really is like a fucking joke. Look into Florida House Bill 433, Section 47. They're bringing back slavery, and I can't fucking emphasize this enough that they're gonna get away with it. And then in 50 years we'll question, how did this happen? How did we not see it? We did, and everyone fucking ignored it. No one gave a fuck because it didn't affect them, right? Oh my God. I really can't. I'm losing my marbles.
America can thrive from racism in many different ways and can profit from racism in many different ways. Some prisons in America are privately owned, so this means that the more prisoners there are, the more money the prisons make. So prisoners make profit. Some private prison owners have donated to some political campaigns run by politicians that push laws to make it easier for people to go to prison, which makes the private prisons more money. So in order for these private prisons to carry on making money, there needs to be a steady flow of crime. And guess what race is the most incarcerated in America? Black people. This could be one example as to why black people are so heavily policed. And when you go to prison, you're more likely to be working in a factory line situation or a labor job, working for a very small amount of money. It sounds a little bit like slavery. This is just one example of how racism is created by a hierarchy.
I heard a white man on this app talking about the fact that as a white man in the United States of America, that he was no longer free to say the things that need to be said. Seriously? Look, as a white man growing up in the United States, I have never, ever been treated as a suspect. I have never walked into a retail space and had people follow me around because they were nervous that I might steal something. Everyone has always been willing to help me or to direct me to the right person to get help without assuming that my motivations were somehow nefarious. And never, ever have I been pulled over by law enforcement and feared that that routine traffic stop would end in my death. These are things that black people and brown people and people of color and people who belong to marginalized groups in our society report experiencing on a daily basis. When white people in our society get upset when those that are part of historically marginalized groups begin to assert their rights to existence, acceptance, and equality, that should tell you everything you need to know about white privilege and white power in the United States.
The problem with racism in America is that too many white people believe it's simply about conscious hate, about burning crosses, slurs, or open hostility. But racism is much bigger, much deeper, and far more deceptive than that. Racism is not just a personal attitude, it's a system. A complex network of social, political, and economic levers and pulleys set up generations ago to keep working on behalf of white people, whether they're aware of it or not. This system operates like an autopilot of inequality. It doesn't need a racist person to function, it just needs the system to stay in place. Schools that favor certain zip codes, job markets that overlook certain names, police systems that criminalize certain skin tones, and court systems that excuse certain crimes. Racism is an insidious cultural disease. It doesn't care if you're a white person who claims to love black people. It will still find a way to infect how you see, judge, and treat people who don't look like you. It shows up in policies, in hiring decisions, in zoning laws, in neighborhood watch calls, and even in the quiet silence of those who claim neutrality while standing inside unjust systems. Yes, racism often looks like hate, but hate is just one symptom. It also looks like privilege, unearned advantages that white people inherit simply by existing in a world designed for them. It looks like access, the ability to move freely through systems that block others. And it looks like ignorance, the refusal to learn, to listen, to acknowledge that the playing field has never been equal. Even America's so-called fair systems carry the fingerprints of white supremacy. Look at fair housing alliances, equal opportunity programs, or even the justice system itself. Scratch the surface and you'll find the same pattern. White people create, fund, and control the very systems that claim to fix the problems they caused. They write the rules, enforce the rules, and then tell the oppressed to play by those rules. It's like a magician's trick, creating both the problem and the illusion of the solution. And nowhere is this hypocrisy clearer than in the white church. For centuries, churches and seminaries have tried to separate Christian identity from the violence committed against black people. They preach forgiveness and charity while standing silent on slavery, segregation, as if the gospel of Christ could coexist with the whip, the rope, and the burning cross. Don't talk about charity drives. The Ku Klux Klan had poor relief programs too, but that didn't make it any less of a terrorist organization. Church records from Klan meetings show dues, elections, and even charity work, all while spreading terror among black families. And to this day, the white church still hasn't fully owned up to its role in sanctifying and protecting racial violence in America. This refusal to confront the violence embedded in America's religious institutions explains why every other form of violence, from mass shootings to police brutality, continues unchecked. You cannot build peace on top of unacknowledged terror. Then there's capitalism, which feeds off racism like a parasite. The cries for law and order and hard work are rarely about justice or morality. They're about protecting a thing-oriented society, not a people-oriented one. Capitalism turns human beings into profit margins and labor tools, dehumanizing those at the bottom, who, conveniently, are overwhelmingly black people. White supremacy and capitalism are twins, born of greed, sustained by fear, and justified by myths of superiority. You can't dismantle racism without also confronting the capitalistic spirit that measures worth by wealth instead of humanity. And that fear, that deep, centuries-old white fear, is the real heartbeat of racism. Fear of losing control, fear of equality, fear of accountability. From the plantation to the police station, that fear has been the fuel. It's why laws were written to limit black progress. It's why black neighborhoods are underfunded. It's why every black movement for justice is met with suspicion and backlash. This nation was built on a foundation of bias, bigotry, and control, and that indoctrination was handed down through generations. It's so ingrained that it feels normal, even to those who claim to reject racism. And yet, here we are, still fighting for equality in education, housing, healthcare, employment, and justice, the same battles our ancestors fought a century ago. So the real question is not why black people are still angry, but why white America is still comfortable. Why is it that wherever black people live, work, or rise, someone always has a problem with it? That problem isn't ours, it's theirs. Racism is not a black problem. It's a white problem that infects the entire society. Tell me what you think about this topic. Hope you find the information in this video informative. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment. Thanks for watching.